evening, everybody. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. We are live on the Dugout Football channel, and it is the World of Football podcast. And it feels so good to be saying those words. It has been a long, long time since I was last on a podcast. But obviously, as people know, I have been very, very, very busy. But I do have my trusted colleagues to help me along the way as well. Joining me as usual, we have Mr. Josh Bell. How are you, sir?
Doing very well. All three of my teams won at the weekend, so that's as good as you can possibly put it.
That's a very good weekend as well. We've also, as you can see, Mr. Reese Russell is with us, but seems to be doing a bit of a guided tour of Livingston right now. How are you, Reese?
I am all right. In contrast to that fucking bragging bastard, all my teams lost at the weekend. So, contrast is important. I've only just, as you can tell, obviously, I'm on a slight guided tour. I'm no longer at work. Fuck this mask. I know it's my eye mask, but fucking get off. I hate wearing masks. Sue me all you want. I don't care. There's nobody about, so I'm not wearing this mask anymore. But I'm all right, too.
Good. And we're also joined by Mr. Nathan Morgan, who saw Cardiff win 2-1 at Preston on Saturday. How are you, Nathan?
I am doing very well, thanks, Doug. I mean, the Steve Morrison era has begun with a bang. Let's just hope we can push up the table now and maybe push for playoffs. I know I'm going to get laughed at in the chat by this, but who cares? We're a big club that considering some of the other teams in the Championship. Thanks for having me on as usual.
It's an absolute pleasure, and it is an absolute pleasure. It's lovely to be here as well. I say hello to a few people. Sebastian is in. Hello, Sebastian. Hello to the lovely Hella. Hope you are doing well as well. And hello to Yeti Boy as well. And also we are missing somebody. George Kyle will be joining us. We don't know when. So he's just basically told us to do it as he is not there at this moment in time. But there is only one place to start, and it is Manchester United have sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after a 4-1 defeat. Yes, a 4-1 defeat to Watford. Now, if I'm right in saying, I believe this is the first time ever that Watford have scored 4 goals in the Premier League. So it is a big, big embarrassment for Manchester United. But obviously Ole is gone. So, Reese, where does this leave Manchester United?
To be fair, I think it does sum up the club as a whole, where it's poor management. The club have held him out to dry. We all know in a way he wasn't good enough. Obviously, as a Man United fan, I accept that he wasn't good enough, and obviously I wanted him to do well, even though it wasn't going to work out. But at the end of the day, I think the club have shown once again how inept they are. Nathan goes on every week about how bad Vincent Tan is and how the Cardiff board are, and frankly, that's the most funniest thing I've ever heard. But he isn't wrong. His club's inept. But our club's inept. We got smashed off Liverpool 5-0 a couple of weeks ago. We got battered by Man City 2-0. And now we've just been systematically carved apart like a pumpkin by Watford. And I'm thinking, all due respect to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like, he is a club legend. People have been celebrating he got sacked. I haven't. I've wished him well. Hope wherever he goes next, like, blah, 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 hope he does well. But the club once again have proved how inept they are, because they should have got rid of him a couple of weeks ago when it actually made sense. It gave a new manager time to actually come in. They've effectively wasted it. They've wasted that time. And now, after 12 games, they've pretty much decided the season's done. We're not going to bother. We're going to give up. Where do Man United go from here? I don't know. Apparently, it's going to be Pochettino. I've got reservations. He's not my choice. I would rather Ralph Rangnick till the end of the season. Put him upstairs in a role where he can actually fix this club, and then get Eric Ten Hag. But if Pochettino comes in, there is some positives. One, He does play good football. I'm not going to take that away from him. He does play good football. He does coach teams really well. He builds players. He believes in young players as well.
Yeah.
And he has the experience of the Premier League, and he is an upgrade over Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But is he necessarily the upgrade to take us to the Premier League title? I honestly don't know. But it looks like that's the way we're going, mate. In all honesty, that's what I see, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it does look like it.
Yeah, pretty
Josh,
much.
are you surprised Manchester United basically waited until after the international break to sack Solskjaer? Were you surprised that they didn't actually do it during the international break?
It's just absolutely no plan, no strategy, no idea on what to do.
Yeah,
it's
It's
sorry,
incompetence.
Josh,
It's incompetence.
were you surprised Manchester United didn't sack?
It just didn't make any sense for why Manchester United did not sack Solskjaer during the international break, and it's kind of like United were kind of surprised and took by shock about how that Watford game went, and they were kind of like, "Oh, we actually might have to do something here." And the really, really funny thing I find about this is that Solskjaer has been thrown under the bus, but I also think Michael Carrick's been thrown under the bus because you've sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who, okay, fair enough, he's the manager and stuff, but it was the coaching staff. And we're doing a lot of the coaching. But you've kept Mike Phelan, McKenna, and Michael Carrick there. And you've said to Michael Carrick, you've not managed a single job. Oh, I'm lagging away. You say to Michael Carrick, you've never managed in your life, so now go into a toxic dressing room under extreme pressure and just do your best to get some results. With exactly the same coaching staff as Solskjaer was using, that was a big problem. So, and the thing about Man United, they've hired an interim coach to find an interim coach to then get a permanent coach, which makes no sense. Why have you got an interim coach to get an interim coach to get a permanent coach? It's just it's terrible. No plan.
I've just told you why, because the club's inept.
And Ed Woodward apparently is now delaying his departure to help find an appointment as a successor for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, which would help Man United in that way. So
I think that's an insult to Man United fans, to be honest.
I think
he gets burnt alive.
Manchester United just had no plan, no strategy. I feel bad for Michael Carrick. I think McKenna, Phelan, and Carrick have been put into a really, really bad situation. To have to go away to Villarreal and go away to Chelsea when the team is and the whole everything with Manchester United is toxic and down. It's a terrible position that the board have put these guys in. They should all have been sacked too. And obviously, I know there's things with Pochettino. I do see that happening, but I think Michael Carrick's been put in a terrible, terrible situation. And honestly, seeing that interview, that farewell interview Solskjaer did, when you've seen him physically trying at the end, it shows how much he's hurt, and he should never ever have been kept longer in that job than he should have.
I agree with that. I'm just switching to the laptop so I have a better screen. I'm just changing screen lads.
Nathan, I mean, you've been warning George, you've been warning Reece all this time that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was in charge of Manchester United, that he was tactically inept as a manager, and look what's happened.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been saying the same thing for the last 3 years on the predictions channel. My dad's been saying the same thing, of course, as well. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a terrible, terrible manager. I mean, just looking across all of the problems that we have seen across Man United, he has made the same mistakes, bar one that I can count of. So we have the tactical issues, especially going backwards, same mistakes. Spending a ridiculous budget, same mistakes. I mean, looking at all the things he's done, the only thing that he has done differently between Cardiff City and Manchester United is that he stayed within the correct budget and he did not plunge the team into a relegation, getting relegated, or putting them into administration and near points deduction and transfer embargoes. It's just completely crazy. But if I'm honest, in a way, I'm trying to get sympathy for.
The thing is, I don't blame all of it on him. I don't blame it on him, but it was the right decision to move him on. But there was some things this club did wrong, and one of them was having coaching staff and 3 separate managers that frankly shouldn't have been there in the first place as well.
Yeah, I completely agree, because they were just trying to get a piece of everything. And in a way, that's similar to what happened to us, because he was allowed to bring in his own staff as well, but wrong appointments, and he just left them to it, if I'm honest. And then the amount of thing that compensation that the club had to pay off was absolutely absurd, because it just didn't work there. But the one I feel most bad for is Michael Carrick, with what he has to pick up and just the toxicity around it, just the way that the owners have put all the system in place. I mean, the only thing that's set up well for the future at Man United, that it seems to me, is the squad, minus that defensive area. But I could honestly drone on for hours about this. But where I was going to earlier, I'm trying to get sympathy, because it's never nice watching someone lose a job. But when, honestly, from what he has done to my club, and the same mistakes that have been made time and time again, and the way that Man United fans have treated Cardiff fans, for sort of us warning them as well, I'm struggling to get any sympathy here, if I'm honest.
Well within your right to say that, on honesty. Well within your right to say that. I don't blame you. The one thing I want to say though, Harry Maguire needs to be stripped of the captaincy immediately. He is nowhere near a captain. He was never a captain at Leicester City. He's never been a captain for Hull City, and he's never been a captain for Sheffield United, for all the clubs that he's been at. The one thing you do not do when you're on a yellow card is basically go into a tackle where he looks like he's just about to break someone's leg, Reese.
And he's a former player that he tried to cripple as well, Tom Cleverley, who's won more Premier League titles than Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Lack of respect.
He's an arsehole.
It's a shambles. It's a shambles from start to finish.
Yeah, it is.
It was also reported too that Solskjaer had a chance to change his coaching staff at the start of the season. Man United offered to get him in better coaches, and he said no. He wanted to keep Mike Phelan, McKenna, and Carrick, which I think in that sense, that's why you look at both sides. You say, well, Solskjaer clearly, at the end of the day, he had chances to change things. He didn't do it. He tactically wasn't up to the standard of the Premier League. But then at the same time, Manchester United threw him under the bus. And I think Rishi, you'd agree too. Carrick has been thrown under the bus. Like, what is Michael Carrick? A guy who's never managed a game as a manager before, going into a toxic situation. And realistically, you have to be Villarreal, and it could get ugly against Chelsea if you don't turn up. So, and the thing is, it could go on for longer too. It's a terrible situation. And Ed Woodward, Joe Glazer, and everything else. It's just they're not just an embarrassment to Man United. They're an embarrassment to football, because no football club should be in a state like this, regardless of what level you're at.
Hands down.
And now Ed Woodward has delayed his exit from Manchester United. That's just how bad it gets. He's the man at the forefront of it. It's not just him; it's the Glazers as well. They've been hiring and firing these managers. Like how you can basically give it straight to Michael Carrick in what has to be a very important game against Villarreal. If people haven't seen my Champions League video, I said this is a very important game for Manchester United, because if they were to lose it, they would be going into a winner takes it all against Young Boys.
It's a difficult game in itself as well.
There will be Young Boys at Old Trafford, regardless of who the manager is. Though surely Young Boys are nothing special. We're not going to have a Jose Mourinho-esque moment, against Young Boys like we had a few years ago. Surely the team's too good not to go for that again.
That won't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see what some of you are saying at this moment in time. Yeti Boy said they probably want to get Rodgers, but now they don't want him, so they are panicking. Carrick is at the wheel, or Carricky.
I never wanted him. I never wanted him. Don't want him. Don't rate him.
Rodgers.
I feel sorry for United fans, and I hate that feeling. Evening to Chris Welsh. You four would probably do better than Man United coaches.
I'd actually win the club trophies, put it that way. I'd actually win them trophies.
Manchester United should get Ten Hag. Only one I rate apart from Zidane, says Chris, and I think Reese would absolutely agree with you in that aspect. But I mean, let's go. There was obviously the start of the game. There was obviously the non-penalty goal for Watford, and then it's been retaken. And then David De Gea does very, very well. But where on earth was Bruno Fernandes in this performance, Reece? I have to say, as a Manchester United fan, I would have been very, very concerned with the way Bruno played in that game. He did not look great.
He's been out of form for a while. He is bang out of form, and everybody knows how much I love Bruno Fernandes. He's quality, but fuck me, like he hasn't been the same for a while. Like he's in very poor form. I'm going to go on a little bit of a limb. I think there's a few factors. One, he looks short of confidence about the system, and he doesn't play well with Ronaldo. He does not play well with Ronaldo. Mm-hmm. I think that was an accident waiting to happen. But obviously, I love Ronaldo as well, and he's obviously been effective for goals for United. But I honestly don't know what's wrong with Bruno Fernandes. Like he's not the player from last season.
Was another time where Bruno? I think there was a throw-in, and Bruno decided to kick it back towards David De Gea and completely misheaded, and then went tits up real quick. Like that was. I think that just sums up Bruno Fernandes in a nutshell. That was right at the start of the game. And at the start of the game. The thing is with Bruno. Bruno's a one-dimensional player. He has to play that number 10 role. He tries to play.
He's played as an 8 before. He played as an 8 at Sporting. He was successful. He won a cup. He won the Portuguese Cup as a number 8.
He tries to play there low for Portugal. It doesn't work. He's a number 10 and nothing else. He's not very good in the defensive aspect. He's one-dimensional. And if he ever comes in, if it stays as Carrick or if it is Pochettino, there's a massive issue with an imbalance in that United team. There's no real defensive structure to them.
Hello to Josh from a view from the stands. I must say you can see Bruno's trying to cover the cracks in his performance by pointing fingers and doing more talking off the pitch. Totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah.
If Pochettino
comes in, I think he'll do the exact same thing that he did to Eriksen. He'll put a number 10 on the right wing. I don't know if it works. I think as much like Bruno's like done effectively. He's played well from a wide position in terms of putting balls into the box, but he isn't a natural wide player. He's a central player, so I think I'd be risky. I mean, Pochettino at least he'll be able to coach him better, but
yeah, it's an absolute shambles, and I don't like the way that they've conducted this as well. Selling it to the press, like. Just saying to the press like something was going to happen. Like you've got like Manchester United board speaking to like journalists, like the Athletic were on this, like Samuel Luckhurst were on it, Duncan Castles was on it. Like Duncan Castles is one of those people you just want to punch in the head, like in the face. It's just
hate him.
It's just an absolute shambles from start to finish. And look at it this way. Manchester United need to salvage the season and quick because they ain't going to win the league.
True.
They're out of the League Cup. True. Champions League campaign has gone very, very pear-shaped. Lose to Villarreal, and as I've said, and I think you probably expect them to beat Young Boys. Yeah. But the thing is, well, I will say, if Villarreal win, and if Atalanta win, Manchester United are third going into match day 6.
Yeah.
So it's all to play for after it as well. What have you made of the rumours, Nathan, apparently about Ronaldo's agent actually saying to Woodward that he wanted Solskjaer removed?
To be honest, it really doesn't surprise me because he could see that the issues that are physically there with the club and how his intention was coming back to Man United. They haven't won a league title since 2013. He's trying to get them back up to his place, and he has, with his history and doing it for Sir Alex, that sort of thing. But he understands that is not going to happen under the current regime, under the current coaching staff, and certainly not under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at all. To a sort of a condition, if he was going to join, this was going to be removed. He was going to improve up top, and then after that, they can push on and rebuild. Because we've seen it a lot in the past where you can have players joining under certain conditions. Say, for example, we'll join only if you strengthen certain areas. And this has been the same with Ronaldo, but for management. But the thing I'd like to massively allude to, and sorry I'm going back to Harry Maguire here, but...
please do. He's a cunt.
He is. the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has made the same mistake over and over again. He can have a superb defence, and in my opinion, that Man United defence under any manager is absolutely superb. Same has happened with us. He can take a completely amazing defence and turn it into complete wet pudding. He's done it with us. We have probably near the top 10 best defence in the Premier League when we were there in 2013-14. We had the most conceded goals. He just does not know how to organise defence at all, give them confidence, and he just tells them to fly in, and then they just, I don't know, they just turn into Noddy at this point.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you one by one with this. Josh, what did you make of Solskjaer actually being forced to do an interview?
He wasn't forced to do it. He said in the interview he wanted to say he didn't want to do any interviews with any English media. He said he's going to speak to United fans directly, and then do no more interviews after that. It was Solskjaer's choice, and it was reported that Solskjaer wanted to do it. If he was forced to do it, then there was a massive problem. But if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to say one final message to the United fans after everything, given how he feels about the club, then that's perfectly fine by me.
Reece?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's perfectly fine with me. He wasn't forced. Josh is right. He wasn't forced. He has reiterated when I talk to the English press, because we all know English press are cancer. Like in the rightest way, like they are a cancer to society. They ruin everything. They target people for the wrong reasons. So I don't blame him. I think the way he did it was the right manner. But
what I will say though, the people who are celebrating Solskjaer losing his job are an absolute disgrace.
Just watch, they'll be celebrating for the next manager gets sacked after he loses 3 games and the bounce whoever that could be.
I'm not gonna name names, but you've seen like through social media, you've seen the videos of people celebrating or people tweeting. I mean, there's somebody that actually tweeted, instead of getting him fired, getting like put in jail.
That's
what's that all about?
There's people that wanted them killed, like JFK style. There's people wanted them fucked.
It's absolutely ridiculous. At the end of the day, this guy is a family man. Yes, it may have not worked out for him at Manchester United, but he's still a club legend. People will still remember 1989, of course. But look, whoever comes in, they've got a big task ahead of them. And,
yeah, they do.
You know,
they do. And there's so much wrong with Man United that a manager can't fix it. Like a manager can't fix his own. There's no structure. Like at board level, there isn't even this board's been failing since the last league title. They weren't even the board that won us. That like there was actually above Sir Alex Ferguson at the time. It was totally different. They have no experience of winning the major trophies except the FA Cup and the Europa League. The Carabao Cup's a trophy, but it's not major. But it's horrific how far United have fallen in this way. Like, because that says all really, that if you honestly put competent people in charge, United will actually thrive. But the problem is there is no competency. It's bankers, not football-minded people, and it's owners that are more interested. It's owners that are more interested,
100%.
And it's owners from, as much as like Pete's a sound guy, but they're American owners, and the American owners are pathetic. They are a disgrace to football. Like they've ruined.
Don't care about it.
Football. Yeah, exactly. They don't care.
It shows a lot. It shows a lot from someone who watches the NFL, because obviously there's a fair few NFL owners who also own the Premier League clubs. The difference, for example, Concrete built a new stadium for the LA Rams over the last couple of years. Incredible stadium, but with Arsenal, he's barely putting any money in, and the
and they're moving again. He's moving them again now. They're actually moving again. Like
they're going back to St. Louis.
Yeah, they're getting. They're taking out a £80 million. Right now, it's like an £80 million court case on Kroenke, but the state that they're in right now, Los Angeles, they're trying to raise it from 80 million to a £200 million fine on Stan Kroenke.
Sick.
Wow. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Glazers own, they have the highest wage cap in the NFL. They have an incredible roster. Manchester United. Think about how the women's team are treated in their training complex, which is a disgrace.
They're not even at Carrington, mate. They're not even at Carrington. That's a disgrace.
The whole list of the American owners are an absolute. It's just farcical. It is honest, and also the Premier League or even I'll go as far as saying the UK government have to do something about that because it cannot keep happening.
Yeah,
it has to.
I love the involvement of Americans. So I love the involvement of Americans in football, but I don't love it when they actually own a club because, with all due respect, you cannot trust them. Because they try to turn it into a franchise and they ruin it, and systematically they're ruining United piece by piece, and eventually it's not going to be the United that I supported. Like I still support. It's not going to be that anymore. It's going to be disgraceful to even witness.
I have a couple of things to say about this as well, because in my opinion, out of all the clubs that are owned by Americans in across the 92 as well, I cannot think of one that is any good bar Swansea.
I don't know about Burnley though. Like I know that I think the Burnley owner moved directly from America to that area, but I don't know what he's actually like with the club, so I can't even comment.
He's
if there's a Burnley fan,
he's meant to be very good, but I wouldn't cast that, is it really?
I mean, the thing is, for me, FSG have their faults, but they've managed to give Liverpool a new main stand. They're obviously rebuilding the Anfield Road end. That's going to be a lot bigger as well. They're giving us a new training ground. Yeah. So, they have their flaws, and obviously, European Super League aside, but they are actually good for Liverpool. It's just sometimes they are businessmen, but I would have FSG over the Glazers, over Stan Kroenke any other day.
Oh yeah, like I'd have Roman Abramovich over every owner in the Premier League bar the Leicester owners. Like it just says all like how bad it is. And Chris Welsh is saying an American owner wants to buy Derby. I haven't got a clue.
Oh, that's not true. Unfortunately, Chris, I think it's going to be Mike Ashley.
I'm not.
Mike Ashley.
Pete, in all honesty, we're not targeting like all American. We're targeting specific American owners. There's a vast majority that are a disgrace to football.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace. We're not saying all of them. It's specific. The Glazers, Kroenkes. There's a few others that I'm well aware of, and I'm not even going to name their names because they should be fucking kicked out of sport altogether. But the Glazers are a disgrace. They don't even communicate with fans. They've only communicated twice in the past, like over 2021, which is more than what they did over 16 years. As an owner, you're supposed to communicate with your fan base because you learn from the fans, and they aren't interested. Yeah. They don't give a fuck.
You can see it. Sorry, Nathan. You can quite clearly see there's not a togetherness between United fans and the Glazers, and there never will be.
Liz Golden was spot on. Liz's comment: "It's the only people who care about the Man United badge are the fans." You're damn right.
Yeah.
For me, I know this is going to be very controversial, but the only way that they're going to be able to fix this,
Jamie,
even with all the issues in the Premier League, EFL, they just refusal to filter out these terrible owners or even to do any screening, is to bring in the 50+1 rule like they do in the Bundesliga, give fans control of decision-making, and then some of these absolutely disgusting decisions can be filtered out of the game. And honestly, with some of the things that have happened to certain football clubs in the last 10 years, things would just be pretty swift compared to what's happened.
The only difficulty with the 50+ rule, because we all know this, because we all watch German football, there's a difference. It's broadcasting. It's broadcasting. It's easier to introduce it in the Bundesliga because they don't get enough coverage on TV. So you're not going to get enough specifically to actually invest. So you're able to introduce the 50+1 rule.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like English football, it's the most watched league in football, so it's not easy. But you could introduce the golden share, which is effectively the 50+1 rule, but it's in a different format which works.
Yeah, in that I would safely say so. But obviously, Manchester United a big week ahead of them because they go to Villarreal and away to Chelsea. So obviously, we will get George Kyle on very shortly as well.
must have been a intricate interruption.
That's what happens when you live here. Nah, I'm joking. But we will go on to Liverpool, and Arsenal hammered by Liverpool. Liverpool 4, Arsenal 0. Josh, Arteta never learned his lesson, did he?
I actually said to recent predictions for Michael Arteta's game management in these bigger games when he's under pressure is horrendous. Like, his game plan was all wrong. Like, he went to Anfield to play a 4-4-2 and to sit in. What was he? He was literally just saying at Anfield here. Like, to maybe give some small bit of credit, I do think the first maybe half an hour Liverpool did very well. Arsenal did well. They kind of tamed Liverpool down to calm down. But ever since Mikel Arteta and Jurgen Klopp had their way debacle and their wee fight, Anfield erupted. Liverpool got the upper hand, and Arsenal and Arteta had no plans. And ever since that first goal went in, it was just rampage after rampage. Ramsdale made some decent saves, but Liverpool had a field after the first half an hour. And Arteta's game management against the bigger teams, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know, should he attack, should he defend, he doesn't have a collective plan. That's the first ever time he's played 4-4-2 of Arsenal, and he decides to go and change the whole form. He was playing 4-3-1, which was 8 games unbeaten, goes to Anfield off a short week of an international break and changes everything. It's just not good game management from him. Fair enough, he's doing well, he's turning things around, but that is why his in-game management in these bigger pressure games is just not good enough. And they got what they deserved, and it was his fault because, one, that free kick he was complaining about was never a free kick in a million years. It's a fairly contested ball. It was, he was throwing his toys at the pram, and he's the one that got Anfield up and roaring again. So it's his own fault on both sides of both of those things. So he got what he deserved.
Reese, it's safe to say Nuno Tavares had a bit of a nightmare game.
Well, first of all, I actually don't regret the prediction I put in because it backfired in the way that I didn't intend. But that's purely because when I predict Arsenal to win, they get battered. So maybe it sort of was the right way. I can't even banter Arsenal, to be honest, but I can banter Tavares. I can banter Mikel Arteta for trying to act like a hard man. I'm not gonna forget that anytime soon. But Tavares, he really struggled. Like, it just highlighted like he's not yet fully suited to the league, especially against the better opposition. I think you need a bit more experienced players around him if you're going to play him against the bigger sides. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't play Kieran Tierney in that position. I think that would have made more sense.
I think the fact that you're playing Nuno Tavares and Tomiyasu in a game like this, I think you need experienced heads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I'm not giving away. I think Aaron Ramsdale was Arsenal's best player. Aubameyang, shock, had another Anfield nightmare.
In big games. Aubameyang in big games. He has a good tradition. He's keeping that up really well.
Disappearing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nathan, for as much as you could say Arsenal were terrible, Liverpool in that second half were dominant.
Oh, they were absolutely superb. I mean, just literally carving through that Arsenal defence like it's butter. And honestly, I want to know what Arteta said to his players at half-time, because it just all fell apart for me. And the thing is, if they're going to be playing against these top 6 teams, and for me, they don't do well against the top 6 either, then they're going to have problems all season running in. And if I'm honest, they're going to, even though it was a good start as well for them not to qualify for Europe and really focus on the league, unless they start to beat these teams that are above them in the table, then they're going to struggle to even get into Europe for the next few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. We've also been joined by Mr. George Kyle. Evening, Mr. Kyle. How are you?
Very good, thank you, Doug. Thank you for having me as always. Obviously, good to be here and looking forward to the remainder of the show. And apologies, obviously, for anyone that's missed me over the first.
You've still got well over an hour because we run for 90 minutes and we run better than most football matches.
We are obviously on the subject of Liverpool, Arsenal. Did Arteta learn his lesson, George? I mean, you go to Anfield, and yes, I mean, Arsenal have been playing very, very well to that extent, but did they play into Liverpool's hands?
It's quite interesting, really, because I think initially, I think it's tended to be. I mean, obviously, BT Sport particularly made it obvious when they sort of posted up the previous, I think it's 5 or 6 results, obviously, of Liverpool versus Arsenal at Anfield, which make very, very poor reading for any Arsenal fan, obviously very good reading for any Liverpool fan, just absolute slaughtering pretty much every single year with incredible regularity, and that's been over obviously quite a few managers that have Arsenal have had over that time. It seemed like it seems to me as though Arteta's got a very sort of Ole-esque tactic of trying to sort of sit deep now and try and hit on the counter. But unfortunately, obviously, Arsenal, I don't think have the same sort of players that we do in terms of obviously being able to play that way. I think defensively they don't necessarily have the personnel to do it. I also think offensively they haven't got, for me anyway, they haven't really got the. Obviously, Aubameyang is quick, but I don't think they sort of move the ball as quickly as we do in terms of, or we did in terms. And that's how I obviously Ole saw some success with that. But obviously with Arteta, it seemed like in that first half, obviously Ramsdale made a few good saves, as we know. So he's definitely been in sparkling form for Arsenal of late. I think that's been quite key in terms of Arteta having a sort of mini renaissance or revival resurgence with Arsenal and getting them up the table. But yeah, I mean, ultimately the tactics didn't work. They were obviously relatively toothless. So I don't necessarily remember any sort of opportunity they had to actually bother Alisson. He may as well have sort of got his deck chair out and done nothing. Because
sounded like Ben Foster, but
that's true. Apart from Donny, yeah.
I don't remember any clear cut. I don't think Arsenal had any clear cut chances.
I think there was one long ranged effort from Lokonga that was easily saved by Alisson. I think the other one, Aubameyang, had a shot saved by Alisson. But yeah, apart from that, I can't really remember too much chances Arsenal have. Nathan, Bukayo Saka, is he on the verge of burnout?
I'd say so a little bit as well, especially after the Euros and all, and the way that they're trying to get his confidence back, especially Arteta, and really trying to make him into this fan favourite. But for me, you can see the signs of it, and sort of you can still play him, but it's just sort of eased down his game time a little bit. I mean, if you're getting the cup ties or even the midweek fixtures, maybe rest him, maybe take him off in the 60th minute, leave him on the bench, bring him on to try and make him an impact player. But it is getting to that stage where if you're playing him all the time, then yeah, you're going to do a Burak Yilmaz to him. What happened?
What it remembers? It gives me a clear remembrance of Alexis Sanchez when Alexis Sanchez was at his peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sanchez played 3 full years without a single solitary break that would have suited him. Copa America, full season with Arsenal. World Cup, full season with Arsenal. Copa America. He literally done that. I mean, this when he was at he's not really a world class player anymore. He's still a good player. Like I vouch for Sanchez. I think he's still a good player. He's just not the level he used to be. But those 3 years, like 2015, like when he joined Arsenal, to 2018 before he signed for United, when he was still probably, in my opinion, I would say the second best winger in the league, because I would say Hazard was the best. I would say Hazard was the best in the league at the time, but Sanchez was actually keeping him on his toes for consistent performances.
Yeah,
those 3 seasons, Sanchez was literally playing every single game because Arsenal had nobody that could dictate a game like he did. Because just watching Sanchez, that's the player that I wanted to come to Man United, but it was coming down performance wise. You could tell it was slowly starting to dip, and that's because of the burnout. Like he was completely wasted by Wenger, and it's not Wenger's fault. The Arsenal board didn't back him enough. I mean, you've got Theo Walcott, who is absolutely useless. When you've got Iwobi before you bin him off, when you have Iwobi at the time,
he was shocking.
I generally can't remember. Is Giroud to a degree, because obviously he used him as a striker sometimes, like Alexis Sanchez. When his best goal scoring season at Arsenal was when he was playing as a centre forward. But it was but Sanchez at that time, untouchable because he was causing problems for everybody, whoever he played against. And then it got to the point where he was completely burnt out. He came to United, and instantly you could see this isn't the Sanchez from the Premier League from like 3 years running, because he was unbelievable to watch. It went down. Saka is at that stage where he's playing so much football, and it's going to affect him. Kieran Tierney is the exact same. Kieran Tierney is the exact same. Doug, you can vouch for that. The amount of games he played consecutively for Celtic in those seasons when they won back-to-back quadruples. He done all that. Like, he played all those games and it burnt him out. He came to Celtic. What happened? He came to Arsenal. What happened? A couple of games in,
got injured. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what's going to happen to Saka.
Alan C, yes, absolutely. I'll have you on at some point. Do not worry, my friend. I'll definitely have you on at some point. Josh, could you see that young players like Smith Rowe and Saka are playing too much?
First of all, hi George. Good evening to you. So yeah, I think one thing you can never do as a manager is you can never rely on your young potential players. You know, if you're putting all the pressure on a young Smith Rowe and a Saka at such a young age, and you're playing them so much, you're overusing them, and the amount of pressure, you're basically saying you're our man, you're our talisman. It doesn't, for physically and mentally, it just ruins those young players. And I just don't understand. I think Smith Rowe and Saka are two fantastic players, but if you're out there playing 90 minutes week in, week out, I just don't see how that benefits. The amount of pressure they're putting on. They're not. Their bodies are not made to play 90 minutes week in, week out. They're not.
Not yet.
Nowhere near to play that, and
yeah,
I just don't think. I think this is another thing about Arteta, and I think this is a thing with young managers, because Lampard was the same, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was absolutely the same. These inexperienced managers have no real good man management skills. They rely too much on certain particular players. They don't rotate enough. They don't. They rush players back. Like McTominay should never play against Watford, for example. He was rushed back. Frank Lampard rushed Kante back loads of times, and he got injured over and over again. Yeah. So these inexperienced managers, they overuse their players. They don't rotate enough. They don't use their squad wisely enough. And when you're young players like Thiago Saka and Smith Rowe, it's you do fear that stuff like that. I'm just going to say, maybe thankfully Arsenal are not playing in Europe. Otherwise, I could see Sackings Smith Rowe playing 90 minutes on a Thursday and a Sunday, and Thursday and a Sunday. And
I look at the only reason why they're playing. The only reason why these inexperienced managers are playing all these players is because they know that they're not just any odd job though. Arteta's the manager of Arsenal, statistically still the biggest club in London right now, just for the moment, temporarily. Chelsea are going to eclipse them anyway. Lampard was manager of Chelsea for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
He had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the Man Utd manager, sacked after 3 years. But the one thing you need to look at is the reason they're playing the same players over and over is two things. One, it's that over-reliance, which we all know. But two, it's a results business. They have to rely on certain players that they think are actually going to get the results. Taking the risks can sometimes actually work. Like, sometimes that can work. But you have to actually know when to take the risks. Ollie didn't know when to take risks and it backfired. Lampard didn't know when to take risks and it backfired. Arteta tries to take risks and it backfires. Yeah. So that's that level of experience. And they don't have the elite coaching staff that has that experience around them to actually tell them, now's a good chance to try and implement this. They need to have that confidence. They don't have that. And
that's very, very quickly, George. How good was Diogo Jota's goal against Arsenal?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. At the same time, obviously, terrible by I think it was what's his name, Mendes, isn't it? I think Tavares. Yeah, the left back. Yeah, absolutely atrocious by him, but incredible. I'm not a massive fan of Jota normally, but that was I've got to obviously give props where it's due, and that was a fabulous finish, unerring composure. Really, I mean it was. I think obviously twice two exceptional dummies, and then obviously it has the composure to then finish it off. And yeah, I mean ultimately Liverpool did show Arsenal that there is still a massive gulf, and as much as Arteta might have thought that he'd done good work or made progress, I think Liverpool gave him a rude awakening. And as it stands, obviously, with Manchester United without without a full-time manager, so to speak. I think definitely there are three teams who are all going for that title. Obviously, City, Chelsea, Liverpool, who are streets ahead of anyone else at the moment. And yeah, Liverpool really did show that they're miles ahead of Arsenal once again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, boys brought up a very good point, and I absolutely agree with this. The same thing happened to Barnes at Leicester. He played in every single match for about 18 months. We got injured, hasn't been the same since. We will come on to Chelsea because Chelsea won by 3-0. Josh, were you surprised how easy it was?
Yep, I said kind of leading up on. I said leading up to the week. I thought it was going to be a really cagey, difficult game. Short week. Some players were not going to be fully fit, and I actually thought we were going to draw this game 1-1. But I can't believe how good Chelsea were from the minute get-go. Chelsea were pressing, they were moving the ball incredibly well. Jorginho, for some reason, like Leicester never put a man on Jorginho. Jorginho was putting balls out to the right, to the left. Even Kante was running down the bloody middle somehow and scored a fantastic goal. Probably could have had 2 goals, to be fair too. His first finish was a bit disappointing. I was really, really surprised about how easy it was for Chelsea to go to the King Power and just completely dominate Leicester. Leicester proposed very little threat. Mendy had one save from a shot outside the box that I think he definitely did a camera moving save. He didn't have to go all the way. He didn't have to go all the way for it. It was an easy enough grab for him. But one save to make. And other than that, Chelsea were super comfortable. I thought Chilwell messed up a few times, which ended a couple of good moves. But Reece James exceptional. Hudson-Odoi turned down the chance to go to the under-21 England team there over the international break to stay with Tuchel. 8 straight starts now for him, completely deserved. Kante played incredible well. Jorginho was just a beautiful passer. I love the man. The amount of stick he got as a Chelsea player beforehand was always never deserved. And I thought Kai Havertz played well, Mason Mount did well. It was just a perfect performance. But Leicester made it ridiculously far too easy for Chelsea. They were giving the ball away ridiculously easy, trying to play it from the back, mucking up, no attacking plan whatsoever, other than trying to get it into Jimmy Vardy. But I'm not complaining. It's a nice free win to win, and just on the Brendan Rodgers thing. Things are starting to feel a bit sour with Brendan Rodgers. We've seen this before in the past when things go a bit sour.
Yeah,
it never ever turns around.
Nathan, I was just going to ask that. Do you think this is similar to his 3rd season at Liverpool?
In a way, I think it is a little bit where just things start to go wrong. He has the over-reliance on certain players. The squad is thinned down. They're not accepting that a rebuild needs to happen. But for me, sacking Brendan Rodgers at Leicester would be an absolutely stupid decision, and I agree completely with Rich as well, by the way.
I completely agree. If Brendan Rodgers got the job, I would be physically sick until the end of time. Every time he managed a game, I would be Rodgers out. I don't blame him as a manager.
I have said this so many times, Reese, and I think George can vouch for me, and I think Josh can vouch for me, that Brendan Rodgers is, yes, I did say you, that Brendan Rodgers will not end up at Manchester United because of his links with Liverpool.
Yes,
it ain't happening.
He won't end up at Man United because he's not a good manager. Like, I'm sorry, Leicester fans. Like, I know that may break your heart.
Run out of steam. His team's always run out of steam.
He's burnt it out. Sorry, Reese. He's burnt it out.
You're right.
In the areas that need to be improved / where he's got injuries he hasn't invested in, and he's putting too much reliance on older players, such as Jamie Vardy, and not trying to build that transition phase with likes of Patson Daka coming through.
Barely uses them.
Exactly. And the thing with Leicester is that I don't know, it's about 50-50 with some of their fan base. I mean, I haven't fully listened to what the full 90 have said about it at the moment, like to Neil, Anthony, and all that, but from what I can see with me is if they sack Rodgers, they'll probably go back to where they were before, sort of the low, just outside of the top 10, finishing around mid-table, maybe even lower down in the Premier League. Because obviously when Rodgers came in, straight up there. But before that, when they had the likes of Puel, Shakespeare, they were sort of in and around that middle to lower end of the table. And I can see that happening once again with the size of the club.
I disagree. But I get your point in terms of like when Rodgers came in, the performances sky high, and they went and done. They got the 2 consecutive top top 6 finishes. But I disagree that they'll fall away though, because I do look at their squad, and I look at the training facilities. I look at the owner. That's an owner that is active with the club itself. Like, he's active. He wants to make them better. I think I look at the club. He's not going to go and get a manager of Rodgers' caliber, but they will get someone who is actually good enough. Maybe change things a little bit, not too immediate. I think if they're going to make a change, bringing a manager similar style to Rodgers, but has like a little bit more experience, like maybe a bit more experience than him. But the problem is, like, who do you get? I don't see Leicester falling too far, but I think they won't finish 5th or 6th, like, under the new manager straight away. But they'd finish like maybe 7th or 8th. I think they would be in that bracket. They wouldn't fall too far, because I think the resources, the fact that they've got an owner that actually gives a fuck, I think you would actually see something. But I do agree with Yeti, because Yeti's been replying on my tweets constantly. He's not giving me a minute's peace about Brendan Rodgers, and I don't blame him. But the excuses Brendan Rodgers is making, like, somebody just needs to grab him by the throat and just remind him that he's a manager, and not a bitch. Like, just remind him that he's a football manager. Stop making pathetic excuses. Because I mock Liverpool, and I mock Doug for this every week. Every time Liverpool gets beat, Klopp cries a new excuse. Oh, the wind is the reason we lost. Oh, the rain. I think Brendan Rodgers and Jurgen Klopp must have a fetish for Ty from Arsenal Fan TV, because he makes the same excuses for Arsenal. So there we go. Brendan Rodgers and Jurgen Klopp must be AFTV fans. I second this, but I think Maguire needs to go to a club that suits his level. Sheffield United. That's where he belongs. Oof. But we'll get to Maguire later, because I barely spoke of him tonight, and frankly I should have done. I really want to punch him in the face. But
yeah.
I look at Leicester, and I don't see Leicester falling too far. I get your point though. I do get your point. It's not going to be like a Rodgers immediate sky high. They're going to get to the 5th again, but I think they'll drop like a couple of places from where Rodgers has taken them so far, 7th or 8th, and then they'll try and build it. But the good thing for Leicester is they've got a board and they've got an owner that cares. They may bring somebody in to like steady things, but the one thing you'll actually see though is whoever steadies the ship will not get the permanent job. They will actively look for somebody that will come in and make them better. They'll be like, right, fresh start, clean, let's go. It's who do they bring in? Like, that's the only thing. I don't know who. I don't know who Leicester would go for. I know Lucien Favre is constantly linked to them. I'm just going to say this now to Leicester fans: if you get Lucien Favre, drink plenty of vodka. That's all I'm saying.
Leicester's
it would be a poor appointment, to be fair.
Very poor.
Leicester's next 4 games are home to Warsaw, home to Watford, away to Southampton, and away to Aston Villa. And then
draw, loss.
And then this is when it gets
getting loads of points from that. Really.
And then this is when it gets ugly. Away to Napoli, home to Newcastle, home to Spurs, away to Everton, away to Liverpool, away to City, home to Liverpool. So
you know what I would like, because I always vouch for him on this channel. I absolutely love him to death. I think Ralph Hasenhüttl would be perfect for Leicester. Similar style to Rodgers, but he's working with lesser quality players. Yeah. He actually keeps them up. He's actually quite good with certain style players as well. He's lost his best players, but he's still keeping Southampton playing the consistently good pressing football. Leicester play good pressing football. And I think about it, all he has to do basically is just change the shape a little bit to what he prefers. But in a way, he will get the best out of those players. He will get the best of them. I think he'd be a good choice to follow up from Brendan Rodgers with Ralph Hasenhüttl. I don't think there's anybody else really, but if they get him, he deserves a chance at a top 6 club. Out of any manager in this league, it's him.
Now we are going to go into the rest of the Premier League roundup. What a strange week we've had. I mean, some of the results, I had to look again, and then Burnley scoring 3. Scoring 3 is quite well. I know they scored 3 against Brentford, but goodness me, scoring 3 against Palace. But I think the shock result of the weekend for me was Norwich City 2, Southampton 1. George, Norwich are closing in on that 11 points.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm looking at Reece, and it's obviously that was a. To be honest with you, I was very.
I'm very pro Leicester are worse than that Derby team now. I'm gonna have to fucking eat my words because of Dean Smith. Dean Smith, you bastard.
It's so difficult. That's the thing though, is that it was a bold prediction that Reece made, but it was, to be honest with you, it was quite realistic. But it's just because I think over an entire season, it's so difficult to get anywhere near that low points. It just is, because you obviously you can have like a couple of good days and you're almost there already. But that's obviously the issue now. And yeah, I still don't think I still think it will be. Well, I think if Norwich manage to do this, it'll probably be the greatest escape that in Premier League history, given the fact of where they were and how terrible and abject. Just obviously even like a couple of weeks ago, we were sort of saying, and I mean obviously I was part of it as well.
I still stand by. They're going down bottom of the league. I still stand by.
They will, yeah.
Not only that, but obviously the fact that Norwich are a disgrace to the Premier League because they just offer nothing, and obviously every single time they come up, they offer absolutely nothing.
All they want is that money. I think everyone, I think even Norwich fans can agree. All they do is come up for that money, go down and get the 100 million. They give it to Delia Smith so she can go and buy nudes of Daniel Farke, and then it's rinse repeat. I don't see the need. And this is no disrespect to Norwich, right? And I say this in the right way. Why do Norwich City exist as a football club? Because you're right, they offer nothing. Like at least there's clubs that come up and they actually put a stamp on the league. Like Brentford right now are unfortunately going through an injury crisis, but they haven't changed their football and they are still giving teams a proper run for their money. Watford have came up again. They have actually changed things around to a degree. They've actually changed things around and they've been playing really well. So I look at them. I had them to go down. I'm inclined to change that. I don't actually think they're going down now. I actually think Ranieri will keep them up and then get sacked. But I look at it and I'm like, Norwich City, Fulham are going to come up next year under Marco Silva. He's going to be sacked and he'll be back at Hull City, or wherever he goes next. There's a serious problem with clubs that come up.
He's a disgrace of a manager. I'm sorry, but Marco Silva is a disgrace of a Premier League manager. He's got a 30% win rate with Hull, Everton, and there's another one that he managed, Watford.
Fulham. Watford, yeah. I just look at it and I'm thinking there has to be some level of impact in the league because, there's some teams that come up in the league and they're actually going to make an effort and they're going to try and stay up. We take the piss out of Fulham every year when they come up, but at least Fulham actually try to stay up. Like you'll see how active they are. If they need to spend money to stay up, they'll actually spend money. If they have to sack a manager to preserve results, they'll sack a manager more times than we can count. But at least they actively go out their way to do something. Whereas Norwich come up, they kept Farke twice. Now they've binned them because they've won a game. That must be that to me is the best thing I've ever seen. Wins a game of football, and Delia's went, nope, we can't have that anymore. That's not the Norwich way. That's not the Norwich City way. We don't accept
the crazy thing I'd like to add that as well was Delia was on Good Morning Britain the other day. My goodness, that interview was complete and utter shambles.
What did she say? I'm still looking for the pie.
I think the biggest insult for me was that they were asking her about Daniel Farke, obviously, her reasons for sacking him after the game. And the worst thing was, she said it wasn't her decision to sack Daniel Farke. What? It was other members of the board to sack him, and she would have kept him on for the rest of the season.
Oh my God.
And not only that as well, the other thing she said was that the club don't have much money either, and that they're not going to be getting any sort of transfer budget in January or probably in the summer as well.
Bye-bye.
She says,
bye-bye.
I know. She says they're a self-funded club, sort of half fan-owned, half investors as well. Like you've got Delia in there and a few other companies from Norwich. And I found the biggest one was to raise some money. Delia has been doing weekly food and wine surgeries to try and get people to pay money to her to teach them how to cook some I don't know, half fancy food so she can put it into the club and, I don't know, try and spend it on Billy Gilmore's wages or something. But
oh yeah, some most
the
expensive player says, "Oh really?"
Exactly, and just
actually,
some of the
that's
stuff she said is
that's something I wanted to add as well, Reese. You play Billy Gilmore, you get results.
Actually, when I get Billy Gilmore's the best, like bar John McGinn. Billy Gilmore's the best Scottish midfielder in the league. Notice how I only said John McGinn. Notice how I only said John McGinn and Billy Gilmore there, because it's accurate.
Absolutely.
But Gilmore's quality. Gilmore is he's not a typical Scottish player either. He's a proper technical. He's a proper technical player, like, and he's showing what he's capable of. And see when Norwich go down. When Norwich go down, we're going to be on this show in the summer, guaranteed, because there's no international tournaments in the summer, so we can have a blast the world of football over the summer. The second the Premier League season ends, and Norwich City go down, I'm going to be on this show wearing my green and gold Man United shirt, because it suits. At least Norwich fans will actually see a team in the Premier League with that colour on. And I'm gonna be singing goodbye, goodbye. Now fuck off now, and I'll be celebrating. They are one of the few teams I absolutely despise when it comes to being in the Premier League. I despise them.
Just to let you know, Bluebird Legends, it was ham, egg, and chips. Yes, there will be. There will be. Nathan, big win for Aston Villa, needed as well.
Absolutely, and it was just a complete massive difference between Steven Gerrard and the football under Dean Smith. You can tell he lost the dressing room with the way that they played. They needed a system change, they needed confidence, and they clearly got that. Aston Villa are going to start to push on and be the club that we all predicted them in the summer. Yes, they're not going to finish where I predicted them in like 6th or probably 8th or in that top half with 8%.
I think we all had them, and I can't remember what I had.
I definitely had them top 10. Josh,
I'm not watching that show back after what I did to Leeds, but I've kind of done Leeds a favour.
I think it's safe to say we've seen the best of Newcastle and the worst of Newcastle. 3-3. I mean, them scoring 3 goals is mental anyway.
First of all, it's just typical unlucky for Newcastle that the day before the game, Eddie Howe gets COVID, so he can't be at the game. And Jason Tyndall obviously takes charge of the game. The guy, he has the tactical decision making of an absolute wet paper bag. We all seen what he was like at Bournemouth at the start of last season. He's diabolical. He's absolute. And then you've also got Graham.
Shocking.
And then you've also got Graham.
He can't organise a defence, but he can organise an attack.
He had the most amazing squad, spending so much money at Bournemouth. I mean, they were favourites to go up with over 100 points in the Championship. And I don't know what on earth he did. He was struggling to stay in the playoffs. Like, how do you do that with such a good squad?
Yes, but I think it was very clear. Now, first of all, Carl Darlow is a shocking goalkeeper. Martin de Bracken.
What was he doing for Tony's goal?
Oh no!
Terrible.
Carlo Darlow needs to be dropped. Martin de Bracken is sitting on that bench thinking, what the actual fuck do I need to do to play a game of football? I do think we've seen everything that we thought. You know, Eddie Howe, Newcastle actually created chances. They played good football. It wasn't just long balls to say Maximan. I thought Joe Linton looked good. But this is the thing with Eddie Howe's teams. Eddie Howe's teams are defensively shocking. And Jason Tyndall's team, Bournemouth team, were a defensive shambles as well. This is the big issue for Eddie Howe, is he's got a massive chance. He's got no time to mess around with anything. He has to get that Newcastle team getting points and getting wins quickly. And if they're going to play attacking football, fair good, but he's not going to stay in the Premier League and see goals like that, like he did at Bournemouth. It's not going to work. He needs to get Newcastle playing well. He needs to make them solid, and then and start building from there. It's all well good going ahead and attacking teams, but you know when you're playing against teams like against Brentford, who generally are fearless and will go at you in an open game, you're asking for trouble. I do think him not being there is a big effect. I think Jason Tyndall and Graham Jones' substitutes in that game were really, really questionable, and I do question who was actually making the subs, because Graham Jones, you know, we've seen what he was like as the interim manager. He wasn't anything spectacular, but yeah, Eddie Howe's got a big task on his hands, and it's all I said. I don't think Newcastle Newcastle just need to stop shipping goals, and I don't think they've kept a clean sheet for a long time now this season. And they're the only team that's winless in the Premier League. They need that win, and they need to win somewhere. And Eddie Howe needs to kind of swallow his pride a wee bit and just say, "We're going to be ugly, but we're still going to be efficient, and we're just going to get that first 3 points on the board."
I'm pretty sure it's the first time ever in Premier League history that it's nearly December and a team hasn't won a game.
To be fair,
Derby did that.
To be fair, Spurs were also the first team yesterday to go 6 full halves without having a single shot or goal. So
mental.
Here's Eddie Howe's next 4 games.
Loss.
Away to Arsenal, home to Norwich, home to Burnley, away to Leicester, away to Liverpool, home to City, home to United, and away to Everton. God have Eddie Howe.
Yeah. George, explain this result. Burnley 3, Crystal Palace 3. Where did that come from?
Yeah, no idea. I mean, obviously, both sides not well, particularly Burnley. Obviously, as Reese has said, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of Burnley either.
I fucking hate them, mate.
By any means, but I think it's quite interesting. Obviously, while you guys were talking, because I don't, I've tended to over the past few weeks or so sort of avoid looking at the Premier League table, mainly because of what's happening to Manchester United as I see us plummeting down. But I think obviously with Burnley, that's probably a good opportunity. Just looking at it now, it's probably a good point for them. But sort of like sitting now in 18th spot at the moment, and it's going to be it's very tight actually and very close in terms of who's going to be in for that relegation. At the moment,
yeah.
I think it's extremely interesting the way it's sort of going up. And also the other thing I was going to say, which of course we'll get onto at some point, was Brentford. I mean, I know we were all sort of teasing Josh for what he predicted for them, but just looking at their sort of form recently over the last few matches is really, really gone badly. And I don't know, and I don't know whether that's going to be something that's going to be rectified. But obviously, getting back to sort of Burnley specifically, as we were talking about them, they're the sort of team that, again, a bit like sort of the cockroaches in the nuclear war. They're the ones that no matter what happens, they seem to survive in the Premier League. And that's just another point for them. They don't mind how they get them. Obviously, it's a thrilling match for their fans, which they won't normally see. But, it's another important point for them, and I still think they'll somehow sort of survive as well. And obviously with Palace under Vieira, I mean, he's still again sort of looking at their spot now as well. Being now 10th in the league, he's certainly done. I don't think any one of us really predicted Vieira to last that long, and at the moment I think he's doing quite a good job with Crystal Palace, and it's another good point for them. But it's still early days in the season. I think the only thing that I would say is that, just on a final quick point about another general point that came up as well, what I often think is, and this is specifically obviously with the Chelsea-Leicester match because I watched that all the way through from start to finish, is that I don't necessarily think Leicester were poor, but I think that with City, Chelsea and Liverpool, and obviously all the resounding wins that they all had this weekend, I often feel like if any of those three teams are in the mood, or if any of those teams are even like I'd say about 70% of their capability, I think they're too much for any other team in the league. There's just this massive gulf that it's almost not as if the other teams are playing badly, but it's just that they're so much better. So they don't even it's just not even funny. But yeah, just the final sort of thing is I think Burnley, good point for them, good point for Crystal Palace, thrilling game for their fans, and both will be hoping to stay up and at the end of the season.
I know, George. Before you say anything, you're not getting Thomas Tuchel.
Reese, big win for Wolves, 1-0 over West Ham.
I did say Wolves would beat West Ham, and Josh went, nah. So, just reminding you of that, Josh.
I said it would be a draw.
Yeah, but when I said that they'd win, you were like, no way. So, I'm just reminding you that nailed that one. I'll give Bruno Lage credit. He's came in, he's done so well with that Wolves team. He's changed them around.
Yeah, he has.
Still playing the same system though. Like that's the only negative I can put towards him. Is he's still playing the same system. He needs to at some point get away from it. But I think it's just because like the players they've got, they're just too used to playing it free at the back, and eventually that will be Wolves' downfall.
Yeah.
But very solid performance against one of the form teams in the league. One of the most consistent teams in the league as well, and West Ham pushing for fighting for top 4, like playing consistently good football. Wolves are on a high, and I'm just glad that the one that got the goal as well was Raul Jimenez, concerned what he's went through in the past year. I'm glad for him, and I'm glad for them.
I think if I'm right in saying it was a year to the day on Saturday that he got his really serious head injury.
That's
so
right.
what a way to return with a goal.
I still stand by it. I still stand by it. Like, injured or not injured, Raul Jimenez is the best striker outside the top 6. I still stand by it. I stand by it.
Josh, are things starting to turn ugly for Rafa Benitez?
It's a difficult one because they are missing still quite a few players. I still think.
Yeah, just remember, George, what I said about Leeds United, mate. It's all right.
Things are definitely starting to turn ugly for a bit against Everton. I think the one game they really could have had there after the international break was City away. That was just a painful thing. It kind of felt like a bit of a sickening thing for Everton that City played Cole Palmer up front and they still won comfortably. He actually played quite well. Yeah, Rafa Benitez is someone who he's a manager who he likes to build off the defense and then kind of transition to attack. And Calvert-Lewin's a big miss, from Decore's a big miss. But even players like Alex Iwobi, he's awful. Like Alex Iwobi's atrocious. And
you see the thing is, yesterday when Damari Gray went off yesterday, I think their lack of attacking threat was there to be seen. But my goodness me, Nathan, how not to defend starring Michael Keane? What on earth was he doing? Like, diving into challenges, like almost conceding penalties. I think he may have. Well, he should have probably conceded a penalty. But Michael Keane, I mean, see if he plays like that against like Liverpool next Wednesday, Liverpool are going to cut Everton to shreds.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, was Michael Keane Harry Maguire in disguise for that game? Let's be fair, because honestly,
to be fair, Michael Keane is ex-United, so there is some similarity.
There is, but it was so reckless for me. Was he really trying to get himself sent off or just give away some goals? But I mean, if he was going to do it in a game, at least do it in this one. But honestly, that in a way does kind of go to show what Everton have been all season under Benitez.
Yeah.
Just normally you'd associate Benitez with strong going forward and then reinforcing and stable at the back. But honestly, at Everton, yes, they have had their issues going forward, but their defence has probably been the worst I have seen under a Benitez side.
It's what I said in the summer. They need to like when we were discussing clubs in the summer. And one of the clubs I was heavily critical about is Everton, because I like watching Everton play. Yeah. But Everton as a whole, defensively, it's a fucking shit show. I mean,
I've spoken to Cam. I've spoken to Cam a lot, and he just keeps saying that defensively they're an absolute shambles.
I talked to an Everton fan, because obviously the Weekly Armchair, we've got an Everton fan that hosts our podcast, and he's due to start soon. But I talked to him, and even himself with Everton, like, I can't pinpoint it, because like as a manager, I respect Rafa Benitez, even though he managed two clubs I absolutely despise, being Newcastle and Liverpool, because I don't give a damn about Chelsea. Just kidding, Josh. But considering what he done there, like, it's still typical standards. I hate Chelsea, but I just despise Newcastle. But he is the manager I respect. He's a manager I respect for what he's done in the game. And when he went to Everton, it's completely backfired. He's went against what he is actually good at. And I'm thinking, once you go away from your managerial principles, that's when you are fucked.
Can I just say, we've probably seen the pass of the season from João Cancelo. What a ball for that goal for
Best
Sterling.
goal back in the league.
Yeah.
what I would say is, for me, it wasn't the best pass of the weekend. That was actually when Jorginho played in Chilwell after 2 minutes. When
No.
there were two men in front of him, and he literally had no time whatsoever and just pinged it perfectly in Chilwell's path. And Chilwell decided to do as usual.
George,
Tragic against the bar.
stop trying. You're not getting Jorginho or Tuchel, man. It's not happening. It's not happening. Sorry.
Jorginho's class, but if anyone I wanted from your team, I'd take Thiago Silva first.
Yeah,
He's,
So I can get- so
Thiago Silva is a
I'd
ball.
rather have Thiago Silva than a fully fit Harry Maguire.
Thiago Silva's going to be staying at Chelsea next year when he turns 39. He's not playing like a 38-year-old right now. The guy's he's unreal.
He is some player.
He's still top 5 centre backs in world football, and I'll take that to the grave. Like Thiago Silva is still in the elite class of centre backs, and people don't. I know the funny thing is, I know a few people that do not rate Thiago Silva, that don't rate him at all.
What?
And I'm like, I'm
that's
not joking.
Stupid.
I'm not
That's
joking.
mental.
And I'm like, do you want me to cave your skull in? Like, how can you not rate this guy? Like, he is elite. I remember the first game I ever watched him play was a Milan derby 10 years ago.
He's fantastic.
And he had a man in the match performance. He was quality. And they still go, nah, they don't rate him. And I'm like, Cian, right, seriously, do what your profile picture does. Go and drink, mate. That is shit.
Yeah.
Rafa Benitez, just saying, Rafa Benitez will turn things around. He'll get players back. He'll get the defense sorted out. He always figures everything out. Yeah, he'll sort it out.
He won't, not this
Strong
time.
January window for me.
Nathan,
I think he gets sacked into the season, boys. I'm going to go
Nathan,
with that. Benitez sacked into the season.
Leeds United 1-0 up against Tottenham, and then they go and lose 2-1. Was it a case of Leeds ran out of steam, or did Conte just do the hairdryer treatment and basically just gave Tottenham an absolute bollocking? Because if I'm being honest, I'm actually going to say this now. I am very, very worried for Leeds United this season. The injuries are piling up. They don't have a recognised striker. Gelhardt, I've never heard of him. Bamford's injured. Rafinha's injured as well. Could Leeds potentially go down?
In terms of the game itself, because this is one I actually did watch and all the way through from start to finish. Leeds were absolutely superb at the start of the game. Great goal by Dan James early on from the cross in. Just really out possessioning.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Absolutely. I mean, he does have an end product, guys. This is what I've been saying all along. He does. I mean,
if he's got an end product, then I've got the next list on being the next Prime Minister of Great Britain, right? Like, he doesn't have end product.
Prime Minister of Great Britain, because honestly, from what I've seen from him live and also in the in the last international break as well, he has been absolutely superb, and he's really starting to show that at Leeds now. And looking at the way Tottenham played in the first half,
sorry, mate, I can't have that. I can't have Daniel James praising my presence. I'm sorry, I can't. I just can't. There's constants, right? Def, taxis, and Daniel James is a shit football player. It has to be consistent.
Bearing in mind that this guy used to play for Swansea, so out of everyone on the podcast, who would you expect?
Why are you freaking praising him, you daft bugger? Then stop praising him.
I gotta praise say what I see. I know I'm gonna get absolutely ripped to shreds on Twitter for some of these comments, but
praise him when he plays in the Wales shirt, but not when he plays in the Premier League when he doesn't even he shouldn't even be in a Premier League because he isn't a Premier League player.
I mean, what makes it even worse is that he plays for Leeds as well, another one of our major rivals. But anyway, moving on from that, Tottenham absolutely gutless in the first half. Nothing to move forward on from there. They're just losing the ball at every opportunity. Sloppy, nothing like a Conte team. I want to know what he said at half-time, but Leeds, it happens again for them. They just completely let their guard down at half-time, think they've won the game, just sitting back thinking, we got this. This is going to be an easy ride for us, like we've seen so many times before. Yeah. Premier League, Championship, typical Bielsa.
I have a theory about Conte's team talk. I have a theory. Didn't he not used to manage John Terry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I got a theory. Conte went into that dressing room and he literally went to all those Spurs players. Right, I've got John Terry on speed dial. If none of you perform, I'm going to call them, and by the end of the night, all your wives are getting shagged.
Yeah. I knew you were going to say that already.
I just had to, lads. I just had to.
Oh wow!
I look at those two halves were complete contrast though. The zero shots in the first half, 0 shots in the first half, and 11 in the second half. It says it all for me.
That was very, very interesting. I do have to bring this up because I don't know if anyone was watching the Lyon Marseille game, but I have brought this back for 1 week only. In other news, Dimitri Payet yet again hit by a bottle, and this time it was actually a water bottle in the corner.
Yeah,
what is happening with French football, Reese?
I watched that game, mate, purely because I needed something else to do, because pretty much every team I follow or support got battered this weekend. But I watched that game, and I was actually, up until that point, it was actually quite a good game of football. But the minute Payet got struck, I thought he got hit by...
No.
I just seen it.
Someone needs to put Keane on a physical timeout. Like, go and tell him to go and sit on the step, like, for 5 minutes. Like, he needs to be told. he's still all right. I watched that game and I thought it was a very good game of football. And back and forth, Marseille, like, showing quality, proper good Marseille performance. And I still hate Marseille from '93, even though it's 4 years my senior. But still a good performance. But the minute Payet got launched, I thought, I'll be honest, I didn't think it was a water bottle when he got hit initially. I thought he got hit by a beer bottle. I thought that's what he got hit by initially. I thought it was a beer bottle. But when the images came back and it was a water bottle, I was like, there's no water in that though. Like, it doesn't matter if that's a water bottle. There's nothing in that. It has to be like something worse, because you're not going to throw a water bottle. I mean, that's lame. That's like being in high school and you go to that friend of yours where you like and you watch humility. That's like being in high school and you want to prank somebody. So what do you literally just pull the trousers down, obviously you embarrass them in school. That's what throwing a water bottle is. It's a cheap prank. But the fact they threw a water bottle and haven't hit, the French football isn't governing. Like, the French FA is not governing their games properly. It's clear the officials have no authority. It's clear the players are not effective. They need to do what the Germans do: get the big freaking mesh coming around the fans. You know, the big mesh coverings that they put in stadiums. They need that clearly now in the French game, because it's going to get to the point where next time it may not be a water bottle. We live in Scotland. We're used to it. Celtic and Rangers fans like throwing shit at each other. For the French game, it could get even worse. So they really have to look at.
Soph.
That's going to be
fun.
Oh
God, that's it. Oh God. Can I take that back? That sounds.
No, I'm clipping that. I'm clipping that for Twitter later on. I'm going to work my editing genius.
Hello, Sophie. Hope you're doing well. You've missed a lot. We've basically spoken about Solskjaer. We've spoken about Liverpool, Arsenal. Spoken about the Premier League. We're just speaking about the bottle incident with Dimitri Payet as well.
As far as I'm aware, he is a Muslim. I think I'm pretty sure. Like, but yeah, I do think they need to get the mesh covering up, like similar to what what some stadiums have, because it's going to get to the point where next time it might not be a bottle. It could be something worse next time.
Absolutely.
And it's not just that. It's water bottles as well. What if these people actually have something in them? No disrespect, but people these days can carry illnesses and diseases. What if actually threw it and actually was passed on? I know that sounds a bit daft and ludicrous, but in this day and age, things get passed on really quickly. It just shows how stupid some fans are. That's a lifetime ban for me.
The really annoying thing about this Marseille Lyon game is that I was listening to the podcast that Julian and Gav do of ESPN, and Jules basically said that Marseille, the game was due to restart. Lyon did go back onto the pitch. Marseille refused to go back onto the pitch, and due to Marseille refusing Due Marseille refused to go back onto the pitch, it does sound like Lyon are going to be gifted the 3 points as Marseille have technically forfeited and refused to play the game when the league and the referee decided to restart the game.
Really?
Marseille
Again,
yeah,
yeah,
so
it was their fans that caused it.
It's the same again. Like it's
To answer your question, Sylvia, I think is it their fourth game now that they've had suspended?
Fourth game this season. I've just found an article by it's on ESPN. It's that Julian Lawrence and
yeah.
I'm going to read this out to everybody that's watching as well. It's the disciplinary commission of the French league on Monday said that Lyon would play their Ligue 1 game, home game behind closed doors until it rules on the incident on December 8th after an investigation. The French Olympico was called off almost 2 hours after being suspended. Blah blah blah. Referee Rudy Bouquet sent the players to the dressing room after Payet fell to the ground as he was prepared to take a corner kick. It looks so Lyon are going to be forced to play their games behind closed doors. But this is not a joke. This is what's happened so far this season. Nice were docked 2 points. One of them was suspended after serious incidents in a game with Marseille. Coincidence? Yeah. That was missiles thrown on the pitch. The Northern Derby between Lens and Lille. Crowd problems in September, which we all spoke about in depth. Second half was delayed. Rival fans thrown objects again. The Montpellier game, the Angers game, Marseille, Saint Etienne, all of them stopped. That's 6 games. Maracanu said probably butchered that, but that's how it is. Maracanu said the incidents were a threat to Ligue 1's finances. You have no got any. We can't allow that. We can't allow that a broadcaster has bought rights. They must keep the conversation moving for more than an hour, like they did last night when we don't know if a match is going to continue. It's a world where millions of euros are at stake. That's the person in charge of the the broadcast, and she deals with all that. It's just all the conversations, and she's literally saying that an hour. That is literally what they're getting to, and that's 6 or 7 games in France since the start of the season that's been suspended because dickhead fans are causing this. And I say dickhead loosely. I could have called them much worse. It's getting to the point now where the French game, they may as well just suspend their season and just give the title to PSG right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's getting to that stage, isn't it? It's getting to that stage where we're going to see games behind closed doors. I mean, Josh, I'm not being funny. I don't really watch French football. I don't know if you watch French football, but is it getting worse? The violence in France.
It's getting to a level of really concerning level, and the thing is, though, there isn't really much you can do about it. You can maybe limit the fans. You can cut down the capacity of the fans, so they are just close to the pitch and they can't throw things on as such, or you can play it behind closed doors. But there is no way there's just no way you can do it that really suits anything. You could suspend the league temporarily, but what's that? That's not going to really do anything because it doesn't fix it. You're pushing the problem away rather than solving it. So I don't really see how that necessarily gets a solution to anything. I think the best thing you can do is you just have to cut the capacity. You have to make a 50% capacity and put the fans up in higher standings so where they can't actually physically throw, unless you're like a full on NFL like Tom Brady quarterback and you've got some arm on you. You can't really throw anything on anywhere. So
I'll be honest, mate. I don't think that's enough.
I think it's anything. I think it's either that.
I disagree.
It's either that or play behind. There's much you can do.
There's one thing you can do, right? And I think I'm actually going to say this in the funniest way possible. I think French authorities should actually take understanding from Celtic and Rangers, and I say that loosely because I know it's a funny comparison, but Rangers have banned Celtic fans from Ibrox during Old Firm games. Celtic have banned Rangers fans from Parkhead during Old Firm games. If during a derby, I know a derby is important and you want your fans there, but if your fans cannot conduct yourselves, ban them. Ban them from coming to your game. Have it a sole home stadium, and you'll find out there as well if the home fans are at it as well, because you can't just always blame the away fans. I'm not blaming the away fans on this one totally, but in manners like these, if it's major games or derbies, and fans are being affected by being violent and attacking players, ban them from the stadium. Force them to watch it at home, and you'll see what happens then. Because I guarantee you, if that was me and I was attacking a football player of a team that my team was supporting, I was banned from going to Mullen Stadium, I know how I would react the next time I'd be in the stadium. I wouldn't do it, and I'd sit in my arse and watch the football.
I do realise that time is getting on a little bit, but we will speak about this because it is a huge week of Champions League football. We'll start with Josh. Chelsea against Juventus. Obviously, both sides are all but through. What would be the best result for you guys?
I think for me personally, I do think we need to win this game. We do want to finish top of the group, no matter what. The thing is, though, is that Juventus are missing a lot of players. I think Max Allegri said they're missing 9 starters, and Dybala, and I think someone else is going to be fit for the bench.
That's right.
Chelsea need to get revenge for what happened in Turin. Chelsea were disgraceful. They were embarrassing in Turin. Simple as that. It was a very. I think when I was watching that, I thought that Chelsea were playing under me as a football manager when I seen how we were playing against the
At least you've admitted you're a shit manager, mate. At least you finally admitted it.
We need to get a result to get revenge and we'll fight for top of the group. That's pretty much the best here. But honestly, even if we do lose here, I'm not panicking. Yes, there's obviously some small record. Yes, there is some.
If you could put that on full screen, that was the Juventus lineup that won at the weekend.
Szczęsny, Danilo, Panucci, Delict, Lowtech, and Corrado.
Wow.
And I'll get their bench. I'll get the bench for you. There you go. Wait for it. That was their bench at the weekend.
Still some decent players though for a team that's facing a ton of injuries.
Yeah, they won 2. That was against Lazio away, but it was 2 goals. Funnily enough, both penalties from Bonucci.
But yes,
they're not scoring either. They're not scoring well from open play.
I think Chelsea will win 2-0, get revenge, and then fight for top of the group. And yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, I've gone 1-1 for that game. I don't know why, but I've just got a feeling Juventus are going to win the group. But the thing is, well, no matter what result the other 2 teams get, Chelsea and Juventus are definitely through. Man City PSG, Nathan. Obviously PSG won 2-0 against Man City. This is all about getting your top spot as well. How do you see this one going?
It's really 50-50 for me because PSG has started to build form, but I really don't know. It's probably the tightest game of the round for me, and I've got to be honest as well. I think PSG coming to Man United, Man City. Sorry, they just. I don't think they're just gonna have enough for me. All the same with I really don't know. It could go either way, but yeah, it's calling out for a draw for me. As you can see, I can't decide.
I think it's going to be a draw.
I'm going 3-2 home win.
PSG will lose because of the rumours around Pochettino potentially leaving. That will affect the dressing room, and City will want revenge, and I think they'll win the game.
Yeah.
Then he'll come to Man United, and he'll lead United to a massive victory over Arsenal because he won't be here in time for Chelsea.
George, obviously Ollie's now gone. Michael Carrick takes charge of a team versus the Yellow Submarine, trying not to get sunk. Sorry, had to say that. How are you feeling going into this one?
It's I mean, obviously it's still a bit of a shock that Ollie's gone. Really, it's been obviously quite. I think it was an extremely emotional interview that Ollie delivered, and really want to obviously just very quickly, because I didn't get a chance probably in that initial part when I was missing, just to say thank you to him for the time that he did spend with Manchester United. He did definitely improve the squad quite considerably. Just a shame really that he couldn't really turn any sort of like results into trophies. I think that was the real sort of thing, and he didn't really learn his lessons often enough.
Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen. This is how an Ollie Outer actually speaks properly. He's not celebrating a manager got sacked. He's just glad that he's actually the club's moving in a different direction. This is a difference. This is an Ollie Outer who isn't actually abusing the guy. He's just saying it's done, it's dusted. Difference.
Yeah. The reason I sort of bring that up as well is not just obviously to thank Ollie, but also just to sort of. I think there's a difficulty really with Carrick because again, you hear all sorts of conflicting reports over the time, and there's all sorts of things that come out that are opposition to things that come out previously. So it's really difficult, even though Manchester United leaks like a sieve. There's all sorts of conflicting news, and you never quite get a full story. But in terms of respectively, in terms of Carrick's involvement in what has been a deterioration, because that's the one thing I want to say as well, is that Ole doesn't take full blame for what happened to Manchester United. There's quite a few of them, for me anyway, under that coaching team that should all be held culpable. And for me, Michael Carrick's part of that issue, and he's now there, and I believe that he was conducting some of the coaching, which was
McKenna.
It wasn't just the on the field. The personnel which were chosen, which were incorrect in my view, but also in terms of lack of substitutions, rotation, that sort of stuff, which was on Ole. But it was more the not only that, but also the tactics, the complete lack of tactics, the lack of movement, the lack of passing, the lack of all these different sort of coaching aspects, which Carrick was at least part of, or should be held responsible. So to answer that's just a sort of roundabout way of saying I don't necessarily see United changing too much. Carrick's, I don't think too much has changed, but what I would say is that you do often get that new manager bounce, although Carrick obviously is an interim, and the players do.
You're not going to like what he said today, then? I think you've not seen what he said today, then.
I thought he said something along the lines of it's exactly the same as Ole or something. I haven't.
He's actually came out and said he's got the same sort of philosophy ideas as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah. I didn't see the exact. I didn't want to sort of like quote it because I haven't seen the exact. Things can be misquoted. I did see that, but I thought I wanted to make sure that I'd actually seen it from his mouth before I said it. But what I would say is that there could be that sort of new manager bounce, but you are dealing with Emery here, who is probably one of the wiliest foxes that's in management, and I do fear for us, unfortunately. But it's probably the hardest game to call, actually, just on the basis of how Manchester United players react. I will probably say a draw, but it could again with Manchester United. I mean, even before the Watford game, I was saying literally any result's possible, and I still stand by that until we get a proper manager in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know how to preview this game, but I'm just going to sit back because Liverpool already through. Group winners
You'll
as
well. You'll lose 1-0.
I've actually said that Porto will actually play into our hands again. I think they're going to have to go for this game. They're going to have to go for this game, and I just think we'll pick them off no matter what team we'll play. I honestly do. I think it's going to be. I think it'll be 4-1. I really do. I really do, and I think Atletico Madrid will probably win the other game as well, unfortunately. I just think AC Milan, unfortunately, are not going to qualify, and I think it's safe to say I don't think they're going to qualify for the Europa League as well.
To be fair, if they don't, they'll give them full focus on the league. And Napoli constantly love going into the weekend. Milan and Napoli were top of the league. Both teams hadn't lost a single game all season. Milan lost 4-3 to Fiorentina on Saturday, and Milan beat Napoli 3-2 yesterday. So now Inter Milan are 4 points behind. So it just shows it all really that it's going forward.
And Saskin, is that the old PlayStation hoodie you've got on?
It is.
Yeah.
Old school is better than new school.
Porto are our training session. Yeah, Liverpool 1, Porto 1. If we play a weekend team anyway, I don't care. It's meaningless. Yeah, it is. It is absolutely. But
they gave Chelsea a good scare they gave Atletico Madrid a good scare last year. So they might just give Liverpool one scare and then that'll be the end of it. Like, who knows?
Yeah. Very, very quickly, because I do know the time is obviously coming to an end. Josh, Barcelona Benfica. How do you see that one going?
I watched Barcelona Espanyol game. To be fair, Xavi played, gave 4 debuts, played 520 free kicks. Barcelona played some incredible football. The atmosphere around the Camp Nou was stunning. Definitely at a short difference, you could tell that the lift around Barcelona was good. He is going to put faith in the academy. Right decision, I think. And I do think they'll win this game. I think Xavi is actually a decent manager. As much as stupid as this sounds, even though it's in a country that no one really cares about, it is still managerial experience. And I think a chance over, and I think they're going to be up for this game. Yes, the stats were incredible.
Oh.
It was a proper
Wow.
it was a proper Barcelona result in a Catalina derby.
How that finished 1-0 is mental.
No,
That should have finished like 3 or 4-0 in my opinion. Barcelona.
I think Barcelona are going to dominate Benfica. I think they're going to win 2-0. I think it's going to be right down Xavi's street. A must-win game. The Camp Nou is going to be absolutely bouncing up and down. Fancy Barcelona, and I think Barcelona, as weird as this sounds, might definitely have a tiny little late push in the Tenerife and La Liga under Xavi, because it's just something about that right for me right now. Seems like it's going to click very well.
Nathan, is the fairy tale of Sheriff coming to an end?
Yeah, I think so. Sadly, they did have that chance to push into the European Conference League spot, Europa League spot. But unfortunately for me, just looking at some of the other teams in that group, I think it's done for them.
Well, actually, if you think about it, I think Sheriff are actually going to go into the Europa League anyway, because I think if Shakhtar lose to Inter Milan, and that's it, basically Shakhtar can wave goodbye.
We already know what's going to happen anyway. Shakhtar, crap.
Yeah, they're going to get destroyed. But yeah, I mean, I think for that Real Madrid performance alone a few months back, they do deserve to at least have another further run in Europe, especially in a Europa League qualifier, knockout round phase. But yeah,
it's the biggest upset I've seen.
Yeah, 100%. They totally.
I would absolutely agree with that. I am going to ask George this question though: who is coming out of this group? Wolfsburg, Sevilla, Lille, or Salzburg? Because all 4 could still qualify.
Not sure. I think that's obviously going to be incredibly hard to call. I think Wolfsburg, and
the table
as well, aren't they?
Table at the moment is RB Salzburg 7, Lille 5, Wolfsburg 5, and Sevilla 3. Were Sevilla to lose to Wolfsburg, Sevilla would be out. They would not be able to qualify for the next round. And if Salzburg beat Lille, which I expect them to, Salzburg go through for the first time in a group stage, I do believe as well.
I'm sticking with my original prediction. Wolfsburg to top the group, Salzburg to come second, Sevilla to come third, Lille to finish fourth. Somehow. Cheat code. Nah, it won't happen. I'll actually go one further. Adeyemi to score a hat-trick this week.
Once that finished, Liverpool players shocked. Yeah, Solanke, Brad Smith, Jordan Ibe, and apparently they want Origi. Yeah,
I hope that Adeyemi gets a hat-trick this week. He's a quality player.
Adeyemi is fantastic. Yeah, actually, Salzburg and Wolfsburg changed my mind. Sevilla to go into Europa. Oh,
yeah.
If Sevilla go in the Europa League, they're winning it.
Is it Lopetegui still manages them?
Yeah.
Right. Never mind. They won't win it.
Just very quickly, Reese. Ajax's group. Obviously, they've won the group. Is there a slight chance we could potentially see Borussia Dortmund go out of the group stage?
I don't think so. I think it only depends. Like the final game's Sporting, isn't it? The final game is Sporting Lisbon.
No, they actually played this week.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's good for them. Mind you, Dortmund don't have to play Ajax anymore. They got crucified twice. I think Dortmund will still progress, but I think they're going to have to be very careful. I think they have to beat.
That's your question. Well,
random question.
I listen to Apple Music. I pay £9.9. I pay basically £10 a month for Apple Music on my phone and my laptop. I don't use CDs or anything like that. For me, as a 19-year-old, all of those are in the past. For me, I'm very much all digital. And so if you still use CDs, so that's perfectly okay. But unfortunately, not for me.
Well, I still do, and I'm 24 and 25 in 6 months.
That's
nearly got
taken
wrong.
that took me by surprise. Some breaking news just came in. Dundee United have banned the fan charged with assault on Funso Ojo at Tannadice, but the Aberdeen midfielder's controversial second yellow for the incident will not be overturned.
Stupid.
It wasn't his fault. Like he was literally, the whole incident wasn't his fault. It was not his fault at all. They got.
I mean, George. Obviously, I shared that with you the other day, and you could not believe that.
I couldn't. No, when you brought up other news, I actually thought that was what you were gonna. That was what you were sort of going to bring up at that juncture. Because to clarify on the Dimitri Payet thing, I did see that. It's one of those things when you're scrolling through TikTok, and sometimes you just get this random stuff that comes up. And you never quite know which year it's from. And I assume with that Payet thing, I thought that was from like a historic thing they were just showing, but it was clearly, obviously, with the bottle, it was clearly from quite a recent thing. But yeah, I thought it was going to be that incident, and I just couldn't believe the temerity of that fan that just literally it wasn't even a case of where he ran obviously into him, so there was actually an opportunity for him to actually push him. It was the fact that he leant over the railing and went almost as far as he could actually reach and just pushed him, and it's very difficult, isn't it? I mean, we've had these conversations before, haven't we, on this podcast with various other sort of incidents where players have reacted poorly, let's say, to fans, and it's extremely difficult because we all say that and we know that they should sort of keep a cool head, but it's very difficult in the spur of a moment when someone does something that's just like totally despicable and disgusting like that. It's very difficult within that split second not to retaliate or not to go forward, and ultimately it's just beggars belief. I'm glad you said sorry. He's got a lifetime ban, has he? Yeah, that's good. I'm glad. Good. It's just,
and he's due the magistrate's court. He's due at the magistrate's court as well.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe. Again, it's just absolute, lunacy and gross stupidity.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It's just absolute. I just couldn't believe it.
It's not like Ojo meant to land in the fan anyway. It was a clear challenge on him, and it forced him off the pitch. I've seen Angel Di Maria get killed by Ashley Young. That was the best thing I've ever seen. But Ojo literally got flung off the pitch into the fan. Like, for goodness sake, that momentum. What did you expect him to do?
It was absolutely ridiculous, and I'm glad that that fan's been banned, but the second yellow card not being overturned is an absolute joke.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Just very quickly,
guys,
before you finish, just very quickly.
That's yes, sir.
Sorry, just very quickly. I only just remembered this. I can't remember which player it was that Mane kicked when Liverpool were playing Arsenal, but there was there was someone he kicked when the ball was off. The ball had gone off. I don't know if you remember that.
Tommy Yasu, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was Tommy Yasu.
That was quite bad. That part when he sort of went through him, and I just thought that was.
He was very lucky. Guys, we've obviously gone over the 90 minutes, but it's been a fantastic podcast yet again, and obviously it is good to be back on here as well. Josh, thank you very much as always. What have you got coming up this week on your channel?
Yeah, so thankfully, obviously, I was back to YouTube last week. This week continues the same. Got an NFL video coming. I've got my predictions for Freeze on Thursday night. Hopefully, it's not late this time.
I had a show. You can't blame me for that.
I'll have a Manchester United preview coming up. Ratio will be needed for that. Obviously, you already know that, and I have someone else.
By all means, I'm in.
I have someone else planned, and then the other thing I have to say, I've been waiting to say this all night. I generally say this with no sarcasm. George, you look 10 years younger now that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been sacked. You actually are smiling. You look fresh. You look happy. I actually have to say, I can see how happy you are. So I was like, a big congratulations as your 3 years of anger and pent up angerness has all came out, and now you're happy and you look like you've been on holiday in Spain for a few weeks, which is kind of what I was doing. But anyway,
Nathan, thank you very much as always. Obviously, you're wanting to have VAR in the championship. What have you got coming up this week?
So this week, Wednesday night, Cardiff City versus Hull City, probably our biggest game of the season so far. let's hope that Steve Morrison's first proper game at home will be another victory. That video will be out on Thursday. Then, unfortunately, I won't be going to Luton on Saturday, even though, it's one of the best ones of the time, but I've got other commitments on that day. But yeah, that'll be a live stream. And yeah, thanks for having me on as usual.
No problem. George, thank you very much for coming on as always.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, Doug. Looking forward to the week ahead with Carrick. Obviously, lots of news coming through about a potential new manager. Looks likely to be Pochettino. Not my first choice by any means, but I will give him. I've said that I'm going to give whoever comes in, just as a sort of thing for everyone. I'm going to give him a year, unless I see some really stupid shit, in which case it'll come down from a year.
Specific. I'll give him a year unless I see stupid shit. Love
it. Well, I think who was it? Is it Saeed that was wanting Pochettino in?
He's actually came out and said recently, we should all back the next manager. Hypocrite FC, man.
Hypocrite.
Jesus Christ.
Reese, thank you as always. What have you got coming up on the weekly armchair this week?
Oof. Let's see. What have I got? I have got a review show tomorrow. Yep. For a new podcast we do, I'm actually co-interviewing. I think with Keane, the channel owner. We're co-interviewing Rodri Giggs this week and build up to the Chelsea game, so that's going to be fun.
That'll be interesting.
I've been speaking to a fair few former United players or people linked to United recently, so that's been an absolute pleasure. But if me and Keane speak to Rodri Giggs, I won't say Ryan's name, but if we do get asked about greatest Man United 11s, it's going to be difficult to not say his brother. But Keane has rightfully spared me, saying we won't talk about his brother in any shape or forms, and we won't bring him up. So I'm like, we'll just discuss the football and we'll discuss Chelsea. And I'm like, that's good. I don't have to say anything, but. What's it me? If you can tell, that can't be me for one reason.
And also, favourite Scottish away ground for me is Ibrox.
See, the man's got sense. For me, it's no comment. I'm not saying who.
Paul, just to reply to a comment, I'm still waiting for this cooking video on your channel, as you said you were going to do a couple months back. So chop. All right.
On that note,
that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm
on that note, we will say goodbye, and we will see you next week because I'm off to watch I'm a Celeb. See you later. Bye bye.
And this was my show.